Another question here is, I was told I was going to get an external investigator to conduct an external investigation on assault and discrimination. The employer misled me and gave me an internal HR person, but insisted that this internal HR person was external. The HR individual had no law background, but only had experience in conducting investigations. Whether that is internal or external, I'm not sure. My question is, what is the fallout for the employer for falsely providing an external investigator when in fact the investigator was not? There were other factors, but that also indicate he was not external. So what's the fallout for an employer in terms of using an internal investigator? One of the major mistakes that employers make when they conduct an investigation is that they don't implement a process that is, free of bias or the appearance of bias, right? And what you're trying to do as an employer is to put in place a process that's going to help you get to the heart of what's occurred in the workplace. But you want to make sure you're implementing a fair process where parties have the ability to be heard, where they can tell their story, where all of the relevant evidence is considered, and the investigator, whether that's internal or external, wrestles with that evidence and gives a well-reasoned conclusion in terms of how they've characterized the behaviors in question. Where you have a serious allegation, as here as assault and discrimination, and you use an internal person to investigate that. On the other side, number one, you have to consider the fact that these are allegations that give rise to legal proceedings. So, this individual who allegedly experienced an assault and was subject to discrimination, they don't have to accept the conclusions of your investigation. They can go off and go to the police and file a criminal report, and there may be criminal charges that flow from that behavior. They can go to the Human Rights Tribunal. They can and file a claim of discrimination. They can just walk away from work and make a claim of constructive dismissal and ask for aggravated extraordinary damages because of the flawed investigation that was conducted. So I'm not saying that because this was done internally, it was flawed, right? Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. But where you have these serious allegations, including assault, you want to query whether or not having an internal person is the best person that's going to give confidence to both sides that they are being given a fair shake. To the extent that, let's just say, you use an internal person, and then on top of that, the investigation is not done well, then you've opened yourself up as the employer to, these other claims that I mentioned, and employees going to have, be able to seek a remedy in court, at a human rights tribunal, through the criminal justice system, and depending on what they've suffered or the harms that were inflicted through that process, we've certainly seen cases where extraordinary damages flowed from that. So in a case of Boucher and Walmart, Walmart conducted a negligent investigation. There were relevant witnesses there to observe the abusive conduct between the manager and this subordinate, and they did an investigation report that apparently, from what the evidence that came out in court, it wasn't clear whether they had met with relevant witnesses. And to the extent that they did, they certainly didn't rely on their evidence, because they made the conclusion that all of these allegations were unfounded. When the case went to trial, the plaintiff, the employee, was able to prove that these things happened, and there were witnesses that were able to support her version of events. So the investigation Walmart did was negligent, and there were extraordinary damages that were awarded against Walmart, not exclusively because of the negligent investigation, but the harm that this employee suffered after making these serious complaints, and then being told that, oh, we actually, these allegations are unfounded. We weren't able to verify anything that you reported to us. And, oh, by the way, we're going to, performance manage you going forward because you're not following your manager's instructions. So Walmart didn't provide a safe working environment in that case. And as I said, there were damages that flowed from that.